I've been in tech long enough to spot a landmine wrapped in a compliment. My name is Eric and I lead a dev team at a mid-sized software firm in Chicago. Well, I used to lead a dev team. That was before the Friday afternoon that changed everything. It started like any other garbage fire of a week, bug fixes on a product nobody liked, scope creep on an agile sprint that felt more like drowning in molasses, and a director who thought deadlines were motivational quotes. I was working 12-hour days just to stop the bleeding. My team was already down 2 engineers and 1 QA lead, and we hadn't had a decent lunch break in a month. Morale was dead. I was somewhere past tired, floating in that numb haze where stress just becomes background noise. That's when Darren, my boss, sent me a calendar invite, Project Red Hawk discussion. 3:30 p.m. Friday. Classic. I walked into the glass conference room to find him leaning back in his chair like he owned the universe. Laptop open, Starbucks in hand. Eric, thanks for coming on short notice, he said, not looking up from his email. I've got something big and I think you're the perfect guy to take it on. Every neuron in my brain screamed run. But I just nodded like a good soldier. Darren spun his laptop toward me and pulled up a slideshow titled, Red Hawk Integration Timeline. The deck was a Frankenstein's monster of overlapping deadlines, incoherent bullet points, and meaningless flowcharts. I recognized some of it. It was originally under the business ops team, a bloated internal tool meant to unify 3 systems no one asked to unify. They dropped the ball, Darren said casually, tossing the business ops team under the bus like he was brushing lint off his blazer. But I think you can bring it back to life. There's no hard deadline. Just make it work. I blinked. Am I getting a team for this? He shrugged. You can pull whoever you need as long as you don't impact current deliverables. I stared at him. He grinned. Look, I trust your instincts. Just handle it however you see fit. There it was. The escape clause. The trap. If I failed, it would be because I decided how to handle it. If I succeeded, Darren would smile in meetings and say he empowered me. Sure, I said slowly, I'll take a look at it. Attaboy. He slapped me on the back, already moving on. Appreciate the hustle. Back at my desk, I stared at the Red Hawk files. They were a disaster. Half-finished code, conflicting documentation, zero architecture. No version control, no comments, and dependencies that hadn't been touched in over a year. I was toast. Unless I did exactly what he said. Handle it however you see fit, huh? Okay. Let's see what that really means. I didn't sleep that weekend. Not because I was busy coding, because I couldn't stop thinking. Red Hawk wasn't just bad. It was toxic. Half the libraries were deprecated, the documentation was written in what might have been Morse code, and the original architecture diagram looked like someone had drawn spaghetti with a crayon. This thing wasn't resurrectable. It was radioactive. By Sunday morning, my eye was twitching involuntarily. I was halfway through my 3rd cup of coffee, staring at a flowchart that defied both physics and logic when something snapped. I opened the email Darren had sent me again. There it was, in black and white, just handle it however you see fit. Okay, Darren. You asked for this. See, I've been lurking in open-source communities for years. GitHub, Reddit, Stack Overflow, I know how much raw, chaotic brilliance is out there. Developers from all over the world building solutions faster than entire companies. And most of them? Just looking for a problem worth solving. So I cleaned it up. I took all the non-proprietary bits, mostly architectural puzzles and integration logic, stripped them of any company identifiers, and rewrote the project as a hypothetical system challenge. I posted it under a pseudonym, Rusty Cortex. I wrote, looking for optimization strategies and modular integrations on this backend design. Feel free to contribute. Bounty for the best solution. Then I tossed up a small crypto reward, 0.05 ETH, barely $150 at the time, and walked away. Within 24 hours, someone forked it. By Wednesday, I had 4 pull requests, all with comments. By Friday, there were 24 contributors from around the world, each one iterating on some broken piece of the puzzle I'd been stuck on. One guy from Estonia refactored the API middleware with blazing speed. A dev in Sao Paulo spotted a concurrency issue I didn't even know existed. A woman from Toronto sent in a front-end mock-up that made our internal UI look like cave paintings. I didn't tell anyone at work. Yet. Instead, I started integrating the fixes into our internal repo. I kept a changelog, documented everything meticulously, and wrote weekly reports to Darren that read like typical progress updates. He never asked questions. He never read beyond the first sentence. Meanwhile, on Reddit, a thread started gaining traction. Someone had found the Rusty Cortex repo and posted, "Why does this project look like it was built by a drunk committee of middle managers? And why is it somehow turning into a masterpiece?" Thousands of upvotes. Comments flooded in. Memes. Speculation. Praise. Rusty Cortex became a running joke, part mystery dev, part meme legend. And Red Hawk? It was working. Actually working. Which meant only one thing: eventually someone would notice. And then all hell would break loose. The storm hit on a Tuesday morning 2.5 weeks after I launched my little open-source side hustle. I was sipping lukewarm coffee, reviewing a clean, optimized pull request from a Polish engineer named Yannick X when my Slack notifications started lighting up like fireworks. "Yo, did you see this? Why is Red Hawk trending on Reddit? Eric. Dude. We need to talk." I clicked the link someone sent. Reddit. r/programmer humor. A post with 20,000 upvotes titled, "This open-source disaster turned genius is making me believe in tech again." There it was. My repo. My code. My alias. I felt my stomach drop. The comments were a mix of praise and roast. This was built by 5 teams that never met. Plot twist, it's actually a real corporate project and some poor soul dumped it online in protest. Whoever Rusty Cortex is, I'd buy them a drink. Worse, someone tagged my company in a speculative comment. Pretty sure this came from Redacted Incorporated. I recognized the legacy mess. Then someone else replied, "I used to work there." Yeah, this looks familiar. That's when the emails started. First from legal. Then HR. Then Darren. "Eric, can you stop by my office?" I walked in with the kind of calm that only comes from extreme exhaustion and silent rage. Darren looked pale, like someone had told him his crypto portfolio just evaporated. "We have a situation." I nodded, waiting. "Did you post Red Hawk's internal architecture to a public repository?" "No," I said truthfully. "I posted a hypothetical version of a system with similar challenges. No proprietary code, no internal data, no client information. You didn't have clearance to do that. You told me to handle it however I see fit." That shut him up for a second. He fumbled with his mouse and pulled up a shared screen. A Red Hawk was trending on Twitter now too. A senior developer from Google had retweeted the repo saying, "One of the wildest community turnarounds I've seen in months. Incredible work. I've got HR involved," Darren muttered, trying to regain control. "There will be a formal inquiry." Of course there would be. Because now the spotlight was on and Darren couldn't afford to have this traced back to his lazy little handoff. He was scrambling. Later that day, HR scheduled a meeting with me. I brought my laptop, my notes, and every email Darren had sent about the project. Especially the one that said, "Just handle it however you see fit." The HR manager, a stiff guy named Philip, raised an eyebrow. "And you interpreted that as permission to publish a public version of the project?" I interpreted it as autonomy. I stripped all proprietary data. I have a change log and contribution log. Nothing confidential left my machine. I showed him everything. Philip said nothing. Just nodded slowly, clearly calculating how much blowback this could cause. Meanwhile, Red Hawk kept climbing the charts. And I was just getting started. 2 days later, I walked into conference room C for the formal HR review, but I wasn't alone. Sitting across from me were Philip from HR, a senior legal counsel named Marla, and naturally Darren, who was already pretending we were strangers. His face had the sheen of someone who skipped breakfast and had a panic attack instead. Philip cleared his throat like we were at a wedding reception. "Eric, we're here to discuss your involvement in the open-source project known online as Rusty Cortex." He said it like it was a hacker alias from a crime thriller. I kept my voice calm. "Sure. Let's talk." They started soft, trying to catch me off guard. "What was your intent? How much of the Red Hawk project was exposed? Were any trade secrets involved?" Marla even tossed in a half-hearted legal warning, just enough to make me sweat. But I didn't. I opened my laptop, navigated to a private Notion page, and slid it forward. Here's a full breakdown. Every line of code shared publicly is either generic middleware, third-party packages, or fully rewritten modules with no trace of internal data. I've annotated the repo with links to comparable open-source components. Here are the logs. Philip leaned forward. "Oh, and here's the email from Darren." I pulled it up on screen. "Just handle it however you see fit." Silence. Marla blinked twice. Darren shifted in his chair, then tried to spin it. I meant within reasonable limits. I interrupted, keeping my tone measured. Then you should have said that. I asked for resources, you said no. I asked for a team, you said no. You gave me carte blanche. I delivered results. Philip clicked his pen once, then stopped. And the project has been gaining some media attention. Correct, I said, including a spotlight by a top-tier developer from Google and 2 invitations to speak at virtual dev summits. Both independent. I haven't disclosed my identity. Marla finally sighed. We've reviewed the repo ourselves. No proprietary risk. No policy violations. Ethically questionable, maybe, but technically clean. Darren muttered something under his breath, but Philip waved him off. We're not here to assign blame, just to ensure this doesn't repeat. Translation. You embarrassed us, but legally, we can't touch you. Understood, I said, standing. If needed, I'm happy to do a walkthrough for legal or compliance. Philip hesitated. We may take you up on that. I walked out of that room feeling like I just defused a bomb with a pair of tweezers. Back at my desk, I found a Slack message waiting from an internal recruiter. Heard about the Red Hawk situation. Some of us were impressed. Let's talk soon. That afternoon, Darren stopped by my desk. You made me look like an idiot. I looked up slowly. You did that all by yourself. He left without another word. Red Hawk was live, viral, and functional, and I still had one more card to play. Within a week, I was reassigned. Technically, it was a strategic lateral transition, but anyone with a pulse knew what that meant. I now reported directly to our head of engineering, a quiet but sharp guy named Malik who, unlike Darren, actually read status updates. Darren vanished. His name disappeared from Slack and the org chart by Friday. Rumor was he got offered consulting opportunities elsewhere. Translation. Escorted out with a manila envelope and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Meanwhile, Red Hawk, yes, still named that, was now the backbone of an internal presentation on agile transformation through external feedback loops. They didn't credit me, of course, but that was fine. The project's impact spoke louder than a VP with PowerPoint. The final twist came a week later. I got a LinkedIn message from a guy named Aaron Wu, CTO at a rising AI automation startup. Said he'd followed the Rusty Cortex saga, loved how I rewired a doomed product into a community-led triumph, and wanted to chat. We met virtually. 20 minutes into the call, he offered me a role, lead systems architect, full autonomy, remote flexibility, twice the pay, and he ended with, "We don't micromanage here. You'll never hear us say, just handle it," without the support to back it. I didn't say yes right away. First, I had one last lunch meeting with Rachel, a senior dev from another team who'd been watching everything unfold. She raised her glass and said, "You really torched the place with nothing but receipts and Reddit." I laughed. I didn't burn it down. I just lit up the exit signs. Later that night, I sat alone at my desk with one last thing to do. I logged into the Rusty Cortex GitHub account and pinned a final message to the project page. Red Hawk began as a corporate mess. It became a reminder that problems are solvable when people are given freedom, trust, and purpose. To everyone who contributed, thank you. You didn't just fix code. You proved what real collaboration looks like. Then I closed the repo. My inbox pinged one last time. An internal email mass CC'd to my department. In light of recent success, we're exploring a new initiative, crowdsourced innovation at scale. Details to follow. Of course they were. The same execs who rolled their eyes at developers were now trying to bottle what we'd done and sell it like it was their idea. Let them. I was already gone, at least in spirit. The next morning, I accepted Aaron's offer. I packed my things into a single messenger bag. No drama, no goodbyes, just a quiet walk past Darren's old office, now empty and dark. On my way out, I glanced back once, at the building, at the people still fighting for credit they hadn't earned, and whispered, You told me to handle it, and I did. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments. When did you obey out of spite?